Hey guys, welcome to the Exodus TCG tutorial video. Jake and Lexi here from Existence Games, and today we're going to walk you through a full game of Exodus, the trading card game. The objective of the game is to knock your opponent's life points down from 10 to 0. You'll do this through your creatures attacking directly and or using card effects or abilities that deal direct damage. You may even have cards that restore life points. In Exodus, each player has two different decks, the energy deck and the main deck. Both decks must have a minimum of 20 cards. There's no maximum deck size, but only up to 2 copies of the same card allowed in the main deck. Energies are universal resources in Exodus and are each worth 1 point. You'll be able to manipulate and fluctuate energy levels throughout the game. The main deck contains 2 different types of cards that you'll see. We have a mix of creature cards and symmetry cards. Creatures are your monsters that you're going to use to battle and attack with. Many of them have abilities that trigger at different points, and some of their effects may even interact with card rarity. Symmetries are instant speed effect cards that can be played on any phase during either player's turn. Alright, now Jake will go ahead and explain card layout.
Yeah, card's layout is very easy to read. In the top left corner, we have the card name. Top right corner will have the card type, energy, symmetry, or creature, as well as subtype if it's a creature, since there's different creature types. Beneath that, stars indicate rarity at a glance, so 1 star is a common, 2 stars is uncommon, 3 stars is rare. Exodus was the first TCG to coin the rarity mechanic, as card rarity can be a vitally important interactive attribute during gameplay. Higher rarity tiers like Secret Rare and Harmony Rare are still treated as rare for gameplay purposes, since they have 3 stars and have rare in the name. Edition denotes which print run a card is from. In the bottom left corner, we see the set symbol and set name, as well as copyright information. In the bottom right, we have artist credit and collector number. Any card text or abilities can be found written in a text box or over the illustration.
Now we'll either roll a die or play rock, paper, scissors to see who goes first. The winner can choose to go either first or second.
Looks like I'm going first, so after turn order is determined, both players can draw their starting hand as the game begins. This consists of 6 cards total, 3 from the main deck and 3 from the energy deck. Before turn 1 begins, check the opening hand for any ability triggers.
Oh snap, I drew not 1 but 2 Ephemera the Star Shield. This creature reads, at the start of the game, I may reveal this card from my starting hand. If I do, I can draw 2 extra cards from both the main deck and the energy deck. This double ephemera just gave me an extra 8 cards, putting my starting hand at a whopping 14 at the start of the game.
Alright, I'm going first. You can follow along as I go through my first turn, and we'll explain everything step by step, referencing the rule card as I go through the phases of a turn. I'll go through steps 1 to 5 before I pass the turn to my opponent, who will then take their turn going through the 5 phases, steps 1 to 5. We'll go back and forth doing that, taking turns until someone wins, with the ultimate goal being to get the opponent's life points to 0. Each player skips the draw phase on their first turn since they have the starting hand. That being said, I go right to my energy phase. This is where I can play energy from my hand onto the field. This is really cool because when you first play energy from hand, you can arrange it however you like. For example, a really big pile of 3, or a pile of 2 and pile of 1, or spread it out and play 3 individual piles of 1. There's pros and cons to doing it different ways. Most notably, a big singular pile can serve as the foundation for a really powerful creature. If you spread it out, your creatures will be weaker, but you'll also have more shields in a sense that your opponent has to get through to get to your life points. So for my energy phase, I'm gonna go ahead and play 3 piles of 1, and I'll play my first symmetry. Keep in mind, symmetries are all instant speed, so again, they can be played on any phase during either player's turn. Glimpse of the Sanctuary lets me add an energy to a blank pile, then draw 1 card. After a symmetry is resolved, it just goes directly to the graveyard. I'm gonna play another symmetry, Chains of the Ancient One. Its effect says to send the top 3 cards of my main deck to the graveyard, then add 1 energy to a creature in play or beneath my main deck, which is a separate zone. Here we go, 1 and trigger. It's Eroda, the Flickering Facade. Its ability, Breath of Oblivion, says when this card would leave my main deck, it goes face up beneath the main deck instead. So since it's instead, I send the next top card. 1, trigger, 2, and 3, trigger. So whenever those silent irregularities enter my graveyard, their abilities activate, each letting me add 1 energy beneath my main deck, plus I get to add an energy from the symmetry effect. Continuing on with my turn, I have another glimpse, so I'm gonna play that, allowing me to add 1 energy to one of my energy piles and draw a card. Going to my creature phase, finally I will summon my first creature, Caustic Silhouette. Its ability, Illusory Laughter, reads when this creature enters play, I may discard a card from hand to draw a card. And perfect! That draw netted me another creature, so I'll summon it. Convoluted Coalescence. When summoned, it allows me to take a card with an afterthought ability from my graveyard and put it into play as an afterthought. Now, I cannot attack since I am going first, otherwise my creatures could attack for 1, 2, 3, 4 points of damage. This is due to the fact that my opponent has no creatures in play to protect her, so I'll skip step 4 and go right to step 5, my end phase. Here, I'm checking for anything that needs to resolve, and I am required to move an energy from my field to a rota beneath the deck before passing the turn.
Okay, I'm gonna skip the draw phase since I already got my starting hand, so I'll just go right into step 2, the energy phase. I'm gonna play a pile of 3 energy. Now I can't go beyond this pile of 3 unless I use a card effect or ability to add more to it, so I'm gonna use this other energy here to start a new pile of 3. Alright, I have 1 more energy in my hand, so I'm gonna use it to start another new pile, and then I'm gonna use my first symmetry card. Glimpse of the Sanctuary. This card lets each player add 1 energy to a blank pile on our fields, and then I get to draw 1 card from my main deck. And I have another Glimpse of the Sanctuary, so we're gonna do that again. We each get to add 1 more energy, and I draw another card. I'm gonna really start building up the energy on my field now with another symmetry, Harrowing Haunt. This card says I have to discard 1 of my cards from hand, and then every pile on my field was going to gain 1 energy. At its core, Exodus is a game of energy management. Staying ahead of your opponent in terms of energy is really important, since it's your ultimate resource for dealing damage as well as protecting your own life points. I have another Harrowing Haunt, so I'm going to discard 1 card from hand again, and all the energy piles on my field are going to gain an additional energy. Even though I don't have creatures out yet, blank piles like these can be especially intimidating to the opponent since they don't know how exactly I'm going to use them yet. I'm going to need all of this energy since my opponent is slowly building up that Erota beneath his main deck, and the more defense I have when that creature comes out, the better. Next, I'm going to trigger Dimensional Ceaseless ability. I can discard this creature to draw 1 card, and I'm going to choose to draw from my main deck. Next, I'm going to go into my creature phase. I'm going to summon Flashfire, Nebulous Haze. Whenever this creature is summoned and whenever it attacks, it generates a whole new pile of energy on my field. I don't have any new creatures to play, but since I'm going second, I do have the first opportunity to attack. In Exodus, each creature can attack once per turn. I do have to clear all of the creatures off my opponent's side of the field before I can hit the life points. So I'm going to have my 6 energy Flashfire attack his 2 energy Caustic Silhouette. Since my creature has 6 energy, that is going to destroy his creature, but since his has 2 attached to it, my creature takes 2 damage. Energy always goes back to the top of the energy deck over here. When a creature is left with no energy, it gets sent to the graveyard. However, since his creature is a chronotype with the Afterthought symbol, he can choose to make it an Afterthought on the side of the field instead. Flashfire's ability triggers again since it attacked, and it generates a new pile of energy on my field. Since this creature already attacked this turn, I can't do anything else with it. I don't have any other creatures on the field to attack with, and there's nothing else I want to play in hand, so I'm going to go ahead and declare end phase.
Okay, during her end phase, I'll move an energy from my field beneath the deck and draw 6 more cards, 3 from each deck. Honestly, I'm a little worried seeing all that energy from Harrowing Haunt and so few creatures. In constructed format like this, you never know when your opponent could drop creatures into play via effects or abilities, so you kinda have to be prepared for anything. Like Lexi was saying earlier, I can add from my hand to piles, but 3 is the max by default unless with a card effect or ability. But again, there's no maximum number of creatures or piles you can have in play. So with that being said, I'll add 1 to my pile of 2, bringing it to 3, and create a new pile of 2 energy. Here, I want to activate my Caustic Silhouette's Afterthought ability, sending it to the graveyard to draw a card. I choose to draw from the main deck to get to a deck recycle quicker. Plus, it means the sooner I'll get Erota into play. Speaking of which, I'll activate Chains of the Ancient One, sending the top 3 cards of my main deck to the graveyard. I didn't hit any ability triggers this time. Thankfully, I'm not too worried about losing any of those cards right now, although it could come back to haunt me if I end up needing Madness Settles. Next, I'll play Tethered to Eventide, targeting Flashfire, ignoring life point requirements thanks to my Afterthought. Tethered will attempt to destroy Flashfire and all of its energy.
I'll respond to that with Forerunner of Eclipses. This creature's ability states once per turn per copy, I may activate this ability to summon this creature from my hand to my field. If I do, I may target 1 effect or ability on the stack, and that effect becomes each player draws 1 card.
Okay, Forerunner's ability altered Tethered's effect so that we just draw 1 card. That card was a creature, so I'll go ahead and summon it, using Caustic's ability to discard a card from hand and draw another card. And now I'll play Chronological Relapse, attempting to play Tethered from my graveyard. It's important to inform the opponent of the target in case they choose to respond.
Responding with Crystal Cove, this card says to pay 1 energy, meaning I discard 1 energy anywhere from my field or in my hand to pay for its cost. I can now target any symmetry in play, and that card becomes frozen.
Frozen cards are flipped face down. Frozen symmetries are still considered in play, but they don't activate until they unfreeze at the end of the owner's next turn, or whenever specified. Thankfully, I have another chronological relapse. And yes, I will select Tethered to Eventide from my own graveyard, targeting her biggest creature, Forerunner of Eclipses.
Forerunner is destroyed and all of this energy behind it gets discarded along with it.
Now I have a decision. Do I attack or end my turn? If I attack, I have to be careful because hers has 4 energy and I have 4 energy shared between my creatures. I choose not to attack because I have more defense this way, so I'll go right to my end phase and move an energy to Erota beneath the deck. Alright, with that, I simply pass the turn.
It's back to my draw phase, so I'm going to get 3 cards from each deck again, regardless of the 1 card that I already had in hand, since there is no hand limit in the game. While I'm evaluating my hand, I decide to activate Dimensional Sea Slith from hand, so I can discard this creature to draw 1 new card, and again I'm going to choose my main deck to give me some more options this turn. Going into my energy phase now, I can add up to 2 more energies on this pile of 1 to make it a 3, but I'm going to go ahead and just do 1, and then do another pile of 2 energy. Playing a 20 card main deck makes it easier to know what the creature to symmetry ratio is left in the deck at any given point. This knowledge is essential to planning several steps ahead. Moving into my creature phase, I'm going to bring out my second Flashfire Nebulous Haze. Its ability triggers on summon, generating a new pile of energy on the field. Now I'll summon my signature secret rare, Helena the Star Formation! Her ability lets her gain 1 energy, and I get a look at my opponent's hand.
No hand.
Before going into my attack phase, I'm going to play a symmetry card for some extra creature removal. Unsummon. For the cost of 1 energy, I can choose to send a creature on the field back to the owner's hand, and all energy attached to it gets destroyed. He can choose to make it an afterthought instead if he wants.
Which I will, thank you very much.
Now going into my attack phase, my 2 energy Flashfire will attack his 1 energy Coalescence, so my creature loses 1 energy, his is destroyed, and he can make his an afterthought since it's a chrono. And of course, when Flashfire attacks, it generates another energy on my field. Okay, these other 2 creatures have not yet attacked this turn. There's nothing left on my opponent's field to defend him. The Erota doesn't count since it's still beneath the main deck, so I can go ahead and have both of these creatures attack directly for 8 damage. Once again, whenever Flashfire attacks, it generates another energy on my field. With that, I'll end my turn.
And of course, during her end phase, I move my final energy in play beneath the deck, bringing the total count to a whopping 8 energy, which means that you guys are about to see Erota Unchained. As I draw the last card in my main deck, Erota is summoned with all of that energy attached. Storing up all of that energy up to this point is about to pay off in a huge way, because the late game is where Erota decks really shine. Although this 8 energy Erota might be vulnerable to removal on its own, don't be fooled by its helpless appearance or adorable name. Once the facade falls, it's a force to be reckoned with. I still need to deck recycle and draw 2 more, plus I get to draw an extra card for my Afterthought ability. So after the deck recycle, I'll finish drawing 2 cards from the main deck and my 3 energy for the turn. For the extra draw from my Afterthought, I will take it from the main deck. Moving on to my energy phase this turn, I will play a pile of 3 energy, and I'll go ahead and summon Convoluted Coalescence. Nothing happens for its ability since I cannot put any more Afterthoughts into play. In this case, the ability fizzles out, but I'm just happy to have another creature in play. At last, the time has come to activate what is perhaps the most dangerous card in my deck, Erota's Ascendance. Paying half my life points rounded down, I send all remaining cards in my main deck to the graveyard. Then I can summon Erota and or Devourer of Dimensions from hand or grave. Behold, the Devourer of Dimensions! When Devourer of Dimensions enters play, I move all of my other Chronos in play underneath it. Since it was summoned through Erota's Ascendance, I may also move my Afterthoughts underneath it. Devourer is now loaded with 5 Chronos materialized beneath it as fodder for its Distort the Dimension ability. This ability may be used at any time to send a Chrono underneath this creature to the graveyard in order to negate a card effect or ability and destroy that card. As these Chronos beneath Devourer leave play, I can turn them back into Afterthoughts in the process. So, first I'll trigger the ability to destroy her Alana. I'll keep up the offensive by dropping and popping another creature. Then I'll distort once more to destroy her other Flashfire, effectively sweeping every creature on her field using Devourer's ability. With my opponent wide open, I'll attack directly for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage.
I didn't have anything to stop that, so I go from 10 life points down to 2, just like that.
I'm feeling pretty safe here, so I'm gonna go right to my end phase, and my frozen symmetry unfreezes. Chronological relapse. So I can look through either of our graveyards, target a symmetry, and play it immediately, but I think I'm just gonna play my Glimpse of the Sanctuary. This effectively lets us each go +1 to a blank pile, and I get a draw card from the main deck. Since I don't have any cards left in the main deck, I get a deck recycle, which means I shuffle my graveyard and it becomes my main deck again. Notice the card that triggered the draw in the first place does not get shuffled in. This is due to the fact that it's still in play and has not yet fully resolved. So after I draw and Glimpse does resolve, that's the end of my turn.
I just took some pretty hefty damage from that attack, so I'm gonna have to make this turn really valuable and try to push for game. Now that I'm down to 2 life points, my opponent could quickly finish me off if I don't take the offensive. For my energy phase, I'm gonna bring 2 of my piles up to 3 here. Going into my creature phase now, I'm gonna start by summoning Alana the Star Formation.
I do not want that to go off, so I'm gonna distort the dimension to negate and destroy Alana.
I figured he might do that. Fortunately, he had to use up one of the Chronos behind Devour, meaning he only has 1 ability activation left. I'll attempt to summon Mistrai Driftwood now on an even bigger pile of energy. Looks like he has no responses, so I'm gonna attempt to bait out that last Chrono by playing an Unsummon.
I definitely need to respond to that, so I'll activate Distort the Dimension, sending my final Chrono to grave to negate and destroy Unsummon.
Perfect! Now that there are no Chronos left beneath the Devourer, I can safely attack using Mistrai's ability. When this creature attacks, I can choose to have it hit my opponent's life points directly, and if it does, I destroy the creature and all of its energy after the attack hits.
I cannot afford to take another hit, so as a last-ditch effort, I'm gonna send my Caustic Afterthought to the graveyard to draw a card. And it's the exact card I needed! Tethered to Eventide! Unless my opponent has any responses, this will target and destroy her giant tree folk.
I do respond with Crystal Cove!
And I have no response to that.
Paying 1 energy now to target and freeze Tethered to Eventide.
And Tethered was the last card in my hand, so now the playback rule will trigger and she can choose to carry through with the original attack.
I will, so Mistrai will bypass his field and hit for game.
Good game.
Alright guys, that is how you play the Exodus TCG! Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed!
To see more decks, strategies, and individual cards, check out our other videos as well as our official magazine issues for insider information.
Joining our amazing community is one of the best and fastest ways to get involved. Hop into our Discord server linked below to meet other players and chat with us. You can also find opponents to play with online.
Finally, be sure to keep up with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Exodus Card Game for important news and announcements. Plus, you can sub to the channel to show your support and help us make more Exodus TCG videos.
Welcome to Eventide, new Drifter.
Play on! Existence Games!